SimilarWeb reported 2 days ago over on X that Gemini was the fastest growing Gen AI tool in year-over-year website visits in February 2026. They are an analytics company that tracks web traffic, so note this does not report or relate to the apps that ChatGPT and Gemini both employ. However, do note that 643% is an impressive figure by gemini.google.com, the domain. This does not also relate to their web overviews, to which we know they serve over 3 billion monthly, or to the AI mode that you get to from web search. Now, if you watch my channel for any amount of time, you'll know that I made a prediction that I do believe absolutely in the West, Google will be in either a monopoly, duopoly, or triopoly in agentic AI, or just an AI in general. And here we can see that that situation is already starting to play out. Note that this number for ChatGPT is not as dire as it may seem. ChatGPT jumped out to a huge lead in the agentic AI space, already having hundreds of millions of people as of this time last year. And so, of course, with the law of large numbers, it becomes very hard to sustain multi-digit growth as you start to saturate your field. But the simple fact is that irregardless, Google's growth is absolutely amazing. It's probably going to pass, in my opinion, ChatGPT either by the end of this year or by the end of next. Also to note is that Grok and Claude had very impressive growth. Do, however, remember that they started in the tens of millions of users instead of the hundreds of millions like ChatGPT and Gemini did. DeepSeek in the West saw a 55% drop in usage, and Perplexity is leaving a lot of people perplexed as to how long they can exist. They have a smaller user base on the size of Grok and Claude, and yet they still only saw 40% growth year over year. Now, I do think it's important to note that where do I think this is going to go? Simple fact is that you hear a lot of people now, especially with Apple, talking about the M series. Once again, they're ringing the bell saying that we're going back to edge computing. Everyone's going to have their own AI and their own devices. And while that's certainly true to some extent, AI is not leaving the cloud. I do believe that Michael Burry's thesis that all of a sudden we're going to have all this extra compute is fundamentally flawed. When I look at AI, I see it starting to increase exponentially its desire for computation from here on out. Do note that in AIs, you have this idea of these tensors that you multiply against each other. And just to keep it very simple, we can look at them as dimensionality. And every time you add in a dimension, right, you are multiplying by that dimension, and you are literally exponentially adding more computational need in order to complete that multiplication. So this isn't trying to be a naysayer or anything like that. I, just like you, would love to have AGI as a agent on my phone, able to talk to it anytime. But while I think that will happen in some sense, I don't think it'll be AGI. It'll be a super sophisticated AI of some sort. The simple fact is that I truly believe, at least until we have a huge advancement in chip making, that the most powerful AIs are going to reside in the cloud. Now, if you're an Apple fanboy, this still isn't bad news for you. Apple in the West dominates in hardware. Even in China, they're still a dominant player in hardware. They're going to remain such for a long time. And while people, might say, hey, they need to lead in agentic space, they really don't. Right now, they have Google providing most of the services for their phone anyways. People are happy to use Google Maps. They're happy to use Gmail and still buy an iPhone. That's all that really matters to Apple. So here you have the two companies say that, hey, we're these very vicious rivals, but in reality, we know they have really big sweetheart deals together, and those are likely to just continue. So this is my take on the situation. Let me know what you think down below. All of you out there, have a great day.